Do you like blacklight art but have no clue how to make it work in your space? Same! How can we feature our favorite blacklight poster without having to sacrifice one of our lamps or overhead bulbs, or even more invasive, mounting a light above our poster? Well, today we are going to try solving this age-old conundrum and explore what makes blacklight art so special. Blacklight art, or UV art, ultraviolet, is honestly one of the coolest blends of science and art ever. As a kid, I remember seeing blacklight artwork pretty often at roller rinks, mini golf courses, and of course Spencer's, rest in peace malls. But I feel like it's been years, if not decades, since I've seen people really embrace the magic that is blacklight art. For a long time, I thought UV light just reflected strongly off certain materials or colors. I thought white just happened to be a color that always reacted to black lights. Then I learned it's not the color itself, but the materials used to make that color that determined whether it reacts. Take a look at these items. One piece of paper from a printer, a pamphlet with a waxy finish, and my laptop. Each one is white, or has white areas, but only the pieces of paper glow brightly under the UV light. The laptop, on the other hand, seems completely unaffected. So just because something is white doesn't mean it will glow under UV light. So what's happening here? This phenomenon is called fluorescence, and here is how I know it to work. When UV light shines on a fluorescent material, the energy from the UV light excites the electrons in that material, pushing them to a higher energy state. But the electrons can't stay there and quickly release the extra energy as visible light as they return to that lower energy state. This process happens almost instantly and continuously as long as the UV light is present. The paper reacts to the light because it typically contains fluorescent whitening agents. These chemicals are added during the manufacturing process to make the paper appear more white and bright. Even regular light sources like sunlight or fluorescent bulbs emit some UV light, which interacts with these whitening agents to make the paper appear more vibrant even in everyday lighting. The sun actually emits UV light, but because it also emits light across the entire spectrum of wavelengths, we don't see the distinct glow that we get from a concentrated source like a UV LED or UV bulb. The laptop, on the other hand, has a plastic shell that was most likely made white using titanium dioxide. Titanium dioxide is not inherently fluorescent, so it doesn't react to UV light the same way. So let's get started. All right, so if we don't want to have a big bulb in our room and we don't want to have some big spotlight shooting at our blacklight art, what are we going to do? We're going to contain it in this frame. Wow, that's beautiful. That's awesome. This project can be put together with just 3 items really. A shadow box, some UV LEDs, and a poster that's been printed or painted with UV reactive materials. These will probably be labeled as blacklight posters. A drill and some double-sided tape are all you need for assembly really, unless you end up like me and don't get the right frame. So I definitely misunderstood how this opened when I bought it because I thought the front opened up and that let me get in. And it also looked like there was more of an overhang here. But you know what? We live, we learn, and we go with it. Woo! Wow, it's like felt. That's crazy. That feels nice. Little LEDs. LEDs are awesome because most of the ones I've ever worked with have these little cutoff points. I'm gonna come to the big camera. These little areas where the copper has contacts, you can just cut those and splice different lengths together with just extra wire. So these are super handy, super flexible uses. What we're going to do, and we're gonna see how this looks because once again, I thought this frame kind of had like a little overhang, a little cut in. But we're gonna line these UV lights all the way around our frame, pointing in at our photo. Okay, I made this way too short. Oh! I was going too fast. I only calculated this side and this side. I forgot to do the top and bottom. Shit. Don't make the mistake I did. I should have left it on the spool because then this mistake wouldn't have happened. I created a moment for me to fail. But it's fine, we're good. I set out to just roll with the shortcomings of my frame, but after cutting my LEDs too short, I went inside to have dinner and reset. While eating dinner, I was talking about how my LEDs were going to be super visible, and that's when Todd, the man, the myth, the legend, pulled out these aluminum T-tracks. Not only would I be able to hide my LEDs inside them, but they would also look amazing as the border for my poster. So all I had to do was cut them to size. Let's do this! After many tiny cuts and test fits, we had them in the frame. I probably could have cut more material off because the tracks were flexing a little bit when I fit them into place, but I was worried there would be gaps in the corners, so I just ran some double-sided tape along the middle of the aluminum and let that hold it in place to the frame. With the new border all in place, it was time to get our LEDs installed. Wow, so cool. Let's get started. I love LED strips. I use them all the time. I put them in a guitar once to make it a sound reactive guitar. Putting them in the tracks was super easy. It was like this was all meant to happen, honestly. The track was the perfect size for the frame. The LEDs slid perfectly into the tracks. In like 10 minutes, I was done. Oh wow, that is perfect. Now we just needed to power our LEDs. What I did is totally optional. I cut the power cable off my LED strip so that I could make the hole in my frame as small as possible. You could easily skip this part so you don't have to solder just by making the hole large enough to slide your barrel jack through. All right, now it's time to drill our entry point. We're gonna use some clamps to hold this down. I'm gonna use one clamp here so that when I'm pressing through, that won't come undone or mess anything up, mangle things. Once everything's in place, drill a hole the width of the power cable near those copper tabs. Then feed the connection end of the barrel jack through the hole and solder it to the strip. After soldering and before putting your picture in the frame, make sure you test your LEDs and verify your lights are working. Oh my God, it works. And now, just put your poster in the frame and close everything up. So this is like normal room lighting right here. But then as soon as you pop them on, it just makes everything pop. Oh, that's awesome. This is awesome. It's crazy. The only reason this came out the way it did is because I cut the line too short. I cut my LEDs too short. That let me go inside, vent about it, and then Todd be like, hey, I have some aluminum tracking if you want to use it. And that made this so much cooler. Imagine if those LEDs were right on the edge. There's no overhang on the top of this frame. They just would have been visible, and this was just perfect. I was gonna have to figure something out. I think I was just gonna use like black gaffer's tape like to make an inch border around the whole thing. This makes it look so cool. I'm stoked. All right, now it's time for me to get home and get this thing put up on the wall. It's so cool.